Hello and welcome to the Heroic Review. This is our weekly episode review, and this time we're reviewing the first episode of Season 6, The Crystalling. I am your moderator, Deadlyreg, and joining me is ABagofVicodin.
Hello.
Greg.
Well met, friends.
Gray.
Hola, amigos.
Illya.
Hello, everyone.
PDK.
Anahasio.
And Webshoter.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, general impressions of the opening part from Vicodin, if you want to go first.
Very good, insubstantial episode.
Greg.
Quite enjoyed it. Lots of fun stuff.
Gray.
Ponies, how I have missed you. I love this episode.
Illya.
I thought it was very well paced. I enjoyed it.
PDK.
I enjoyed it, but it left me with more questions than it answered.
And Webshoter.
I enjoyed the episode, both of them, and just, Season 6. Wow. So far, so good.
Okay, this was written by Josh Haber, or however you pronounce it, who wrote a couple episodes now. I can't remember the names of any of them.
The finale, the Kitty Remark, he wrote Bloom and Gloom, which is the Apple Bloom Luna episode from Season 5.
Okay, so we have a return of Starlight Glimmer. Who saw that coming?
Her hair has changed. Did anyone notice
her hair
that?
has changed.
I didn't notice that until the end of the second episode, and everyone was talking about it, and I freaked out because I was like, how did I miss that?
Well, being friends with Twilight means she's friends with Rarity now, so...
Just to confirm, her hair has changed. She used to have bangs, and now she doesn't.
She had a Twilight Sparkle do going on when she was evil, and now she just has a regular Rarity swirl.
Well, Twilight probably put an end to that.
I guess she had one haircut for scheming and another haircut for doing good.
Well, obviously.
We can start our headcanons with whether or not a hairstyle makes you an evil person in Equestria. I mean, who would like to start?
I'd like to say that a hairstyle can make you evil in Equestria.
But Starlight Glimmer being back is... Well, the focus of this episode, I feel, was to bring in the Twilight as a mentor narrative. And I feel that it really did well. It just really depends on the next episodes. Because from the looks of it, it looks like the main six have a type of kind of Celestia way, like a laissez-faire type of teaching style, where you give someone a goal. And while we did have the little difference in that Twilight had basically a list of how to go about the friendship problem, Starlight Glimmer realized that, you kind of have to go off the beaten path and take a little risks in order to essentially do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, Twilight learned a lesson about hands-off leadership. Webshoter?
I believe this season is going to be along the lines of Starlight being the pupil and learning friendship, and also Twilight definitely learning how to become a mentor. I think she still has a lot to learn, and that's probably one of the things that we're going to be seeing throughout this season.
Greg?
So, I just want to acknowledge the fact that apparently Twilight's palace is bigger on the inside. That's nothing to do with anything, but I had to bring it up. No, Starlight Glimmer I have high hopes for, but it's too early to tell yet.
Gray?
I have a theory as to why Starlight Glimmer is back and in the role she is. But it involves the character that we meet later on, so should I hold off on that or no?
I would hold off on it for now.
It was really good to see Starlight back because I'm very tired of ponies creating characters and then throwing them away immediately, especially villains. And so it's good to see her back and playing an active role in an episode.
I was actually genuinely shocked to see them return to a character that they'd previously established in an earlier episode.
And her character, I absolutely love what they have done with her character. It's fantastic. I think they did a really good job with it.
Webshoter?
She actually has some depth to her. She's not just simply, this character we're just going to have for one or two plots and that's it.
And the fact that she's very, awkward around everyone still. She hasn't quite gotten over the fact that she was evil.
It's hard to get over the fact that you were
something.
Evil and you tried to erase something from history. Traveling back in time and ruining someone's friendships is kind of a big step. You gotta really push for that.
I don't really think Starlight Glimmer is much of a character. She's basically Sunset Shimmer 1.2, the patch update.
I would agree with that.
Whenever you open up Steam and there's just an 80 megabyte patch update, the problem with Starlight Glimmer is that she needs time. I don't necessarily feel that this episode fleshed her out to the point that makes her a character. Her character is completely reliant on what they do with her throughout the rest of the episodes. And all of the episodes that have been confirmed so far seem to have a family narrative. None of them have anything to do with Glimmer, as far as we know, unless there was another episode. There's like episode 5, I think, doesn't really have a description. But I mean, like with Sunset Shimmer, you know, she was a complete blank slate in Equestria Girls 1. She had a little time to flesh herself out in Equestria Girls 2, even though Twilight was in there for some stupid reason. And now Starlight, I mean, if she gets to buddy around with the other main 6, she's gonna warm up really easily. But this episode didn't really do much for her character. It just made her guilty and then learn something.
I'm just not exactly sure how much of a regular character she's going to be. I saw her more as a sort of a continuity issue, something to bring us from the moment of the last season into this one. I did find it a little odd that she was just sort of wandering around the castle. That seemed like an awful lot of latitude to give her all of a sudden.
I think when they had the musical number at the end of the last season, everything was forgiven. And they did a bit where they all jumped into the air and it freeze framed. So I think they...
That's a universal sign for everything's fine.
By the rule of 1980s movies, jump in the air, freeze frame is forgiven.
Freeze frame jump sequence means that Starlight Glimmer has been forgiven and now she's allowed to live in Twilight's house, which I don't think we'll actually see all that much of her, given, despite the fact that she's living with Twilight. I don't think we're going to see very much of Starlight Glimmer. But
of course not. The castle's huge. She keeps getting lost in it.
Starlight's... They should be always saying things like, "Where's Starlight? Why isn't Starlight here?" It'd be great if that can happen.
With Starlight roaming around the castle, it just proves one more thing. Twilight doesn't have any guards whatsoever.
That's true, actually. That's worth pointing out.
I think more notable is the fact that neurotic Twilight Sparkle, who regularly just takes all her books off her shelves and then refiles them as she sees fit, does not have any labels on any doors whatsoever. And will just, have the biggest maze of a palace. I don't believe it.
But she memorizes everything. You don't need labels when you know everything.
Yeah, you don't have labels in your own house.
Obviously, her friends don't know everything is. They always just hang out in the big table room. They don't go anywhere else.
Starlight is going to kind of be like Spike, where she's going to be chilling around the castle. We're maybe going to see her get a line every now and then. She's basically not really going to have any major presence until either the finale, which I doubt because there really isn't anything building up towards the finale unless the changeling in the background has anything to say.
I think it's early days to kind of be wondering where she'll figure in the finale because, like you say, we haven't had anything build up yet, but we're literally in like the beginning of the season. So I think she could be more of a feature, and I don't read a lot of the stuff to say what episodes are coming up and the titles and stuff, but I really hope that it isn't just going to be family orientated stuff about babies.
It's not the babies, it's that we have a Fluttershy Brother episode, we just had a Mod Pie episode. There are more episodes with like the family theme that have already been confirmed than any sort of, like, Starlight hasn't been confirmed in any of the other episodes, and that's like, if they were in the next 7 episodes, those are the ones that had the titles and everything. None of those had Starlight Glimmer in any of them. So that's why I'm saying, like, we're really not going to see her unless she's in the second half of the season.
Let's go on quickly into the vague overview of this episode so we can get into the most important part, which is Starlight Glimmer and her bestie from the pasty.
I just really hope that Starlight Glimmer doesn't become like Trixie, where she shows up 2 episodes and then goes poof.
Since we have now made the jump of mentioning Sunburst, I want to say I love what they did with his character. His whole awkwardness when Starlight first showed up. Just perfect, in my opinion.
Vicodin?
His voice actor is new. He only did one previous role as just a guard voice, but oh my god, he is so good.
His name is Ian Hanlon.
Give this guy more roles.
He's probably just going to get the background roles, kind of like they give all the other male VAs, because they only have like 5. But yeah, he did such a good job as this character. And this character was really a really good indication of something that always bugged me for a while, was the incessant pooling together of book smarts and street smarts, which still like blows my mind. Like, how can anyone get those two confused? Sunburst had the Moondancer problem from mending fences. It was a different way to address the problem, a different way to look at it, because he was completely book smart, but he still had, like, he still was locked up in his room. He just wasn't as much of a emotional wreck, you know. It was just they had like something in the past between him and Starlight that he really just didn't want to bring up. Probably why he moved to the Crystal Empire. And then Starlight just comes in and he goes, fuck, now I gotta like talk to this person.
But don't forget, he tried to be the best at wizard school, but apparently he didn't make the cut.
He's just not very good at magic.
One thing they did with Sunburst and the rest of the Crystal Empire is they fleshed it out really well. I mean, we don't have full anything, of course, but with not having a whole lot about the Crystal Empire, after this episode, you feel like you know the Crystal Empire a little bit more. You know a little bit about it. You see more about what Cadence and Shining Armor do, though not really. As y'all were talking about Starlight, I just realized something with the Mending Fences. She was also there at Mending Fences in the Crystal Empire while Twilight was making amends with her old friends.
PDK?
I entirely disagree. Like, I just have so many questions about the Crystal Empire that these episodes just raised, and nothing fits. We keep getting these snippets, and everything just makes more concerning, like when they crystallize and when they're not crystally, and where they've come from. When did people start moving there? I've got so many questions. It's not even. We wouldn't even get through them all.
It's worth mentioning now that many of the crystal ponies, in fact all of the crystal ponies, didn't have the crystal effect overlaid onto their character models until after the crystalling.
But they did have the crystal eyes.
They had the crystal eyes, but they didn't have the crystal bodies, this is the first time we've seen those characters, or characters from the Crystal Empire who are definitely crystal ponies, without the crystal effect over the top of them. And the question is why? And I don't know if that was, I don't think it was an animation error. I think it was an obvious choice, but I'm not sure why they did that.
Well, I think there may be other factors at work. Sure, certainly it was a definite choice by the animators. It wasn't an accident, but it may have something to do with marketing as well. They sell crystal ponies, you know, and here we have another episode. Let's make it dramatic. Oh my, they're crystal. I want one.
Well, given that I may be getting things out of order, but I don't recall a lot of crystal ponies showing up until after the big dramatic inducing event, the Crystal Heart shattering. Could that in some way be connected, perhaps?
No, because they didn't have any. They had definite crystal ponies hanging around without the crystal effect on, even before the Crystal Heart, the magical Crystal Heart shattered.
Well, I don't know. Maybe there wasn't enough magic flowing through it right at that exact moment. We don't even know what the crystal ponies really are, do we?
No, PDK.
And I hate descending our reviews into where's our fan head canons going into and why can't we answer all these questions. But one really big one is, why is like no one talking about the fact that this Crystal Empire was lost for like 1,000 years, and then they're all like, well, we barely know how it works. Ask any of these ponies that have just come back, and what happened 1,000 years ago, guys? Like, what was Equestria like 1,000 years ago? And there's so many questions. I just can't even.
Sombra wiped their memories from 1,000 years ago. That's why they had to go through the book in the Crystal Empire.
Yeah, but they've started remembering. Like, they've never definitively said in one episode or not, like, oh, well, they've just got no memories. There was a bit of like, oh, well, I don't really remember it when the Sombra episode aired, but then they've never said, oh, well, they've just got no memories and now they're fine living as however they want.
They clearly remember what a crystalling is.
Yeah, exactly. So these little nuggets we get just make me ask more questions of, well, and I know they're never going to necessarily state here's how the entire of Equestria works, but there's little things I'm like, I wish they would just fall down on the fence one way or the other on a few of these things.
I have a serious question about this. I'm not good with names. The orange pony again?
Sunburst.
Sunburst.
Yes. Sunburst was Starlight Glimmer's friend long ago when the Empire was frozen. How did that work?
He moved there recently. For the purposes of the script.
I see.
He moved there out of shame after flunking out of wizard school.
Josh Haber went on record as saying the reason that he lives in the Crystal Empire is that meant he was next to the plot. So we have to come to our own conclusions as to why he moved there. But he did move there, and in due time to be there as part of this episode, which is good because he and Starlight and Spike were the only characters that did anything to save the day.
All things serve the law of narrative causality. Remember this.
Well, all these characters are also like a year within age of each other. Seasons 1 through 4 took place within a year, so I could easily see, not even for the purposes of the script, I can easily see just that kind of Sunburst flunked out of college or school within the time that the Crystal Empire came back, and then the time period you would imagine 2 seasons, 2 to 3, so it's around 6 to 8 months. I can easily imagine someone moving from Canterlot to the Crystal Empire within 6 to 8 months of it being created or coming back.
It is worth mentioning as well, they explicitly mentioned some kind of time frame of how long it's been since the end of season 5. I don't remember what that was, but they did go, oh, it's been so many months that Starlight's been with us, kind of thing.
It just seemed he was awfully well ensconced in the area, but like you say, serves the plot.
Well, everyone is well ensconced within every episode. You know, if we were to blame an episode for having like a character here at the exact same time, we'd chop off like half of the episodes ever since season 1. That's just kind of a thing that I have conceded at this point. And that's a thing that you concede within all media, really. Unless it gets really ridiculous, like Deus Ex Machina type shit.
Gray?
Speaking about time frames and, the distances and everything in the show, there was one thing that was mentioned about time and everything that I had a huge question with. And that was the fact that we have an Alicorn baby, and there's never been an Alicorn baby born, but we have 4 princesses now.
Yes.
One of them we know for certain became a princess. One of them, by the comics, she was a princess, but now we have 2 royal sisters that are somehow princesses.
Yes, talking about things that lack a certain internal consistency, we're told that there's never been an Alicorn baby before. But we could always think that maybe that Princess Celestia and Princess Luna don't remember their childhoods all that well, so that they were born Alicorns, but they don't remember it.
Well, no, Twilight states there's never been one, and you have to specifically earn your wings or vice versa, earn your horn. I don't know, I guess it's only ever been earn wings, whatever.
Well, they only said earn wings, but I feel like that's a little bit problematic when it comes to Pegasi and Earth Ponies. Like, can they not earn the right to be Alicorns? Come on, Hasbro.
Cadence in canon was a Pegasus who earned her Alicorn hood through the power of love.
Okay, well then clearly I'm missing out on a big chunk of something.
I can't remember whether that was the comics or the books.
It was the comics.
It was the book.
Yeah, the chapter book.
Okay.
But still, they can't be saying, though, that you earn your Alicorn wings. That phrase
It's racist.
is blatantly incorrect and is tribalist.
Tribalist. Thank you. Even better.
I think that the way that we're going with Alicorns now, which is kind of marred by this episode, but bear with me, is that Alicorns have changed from what Faust's ideal was, which was, just 2, to an idealization of the subversion of the princess narrative, in that a princess is born into royalty, but in the case of MLP, you're capable of ascending into princesshood if you are showing that you can grow enough. So by that logic, I'm pretty sure that another type of race would be able to become a Alicorn. I mean, Cadence was a Pegasi. But the only problem is that this, Alicorn baby, while being the first of its kind of subverts the idea that anyone can be an Alicorn.
The next question is, what about stallions?
No boys ever been good
Princess
enough.
Big Mac.
Princess Big Mac is not
Well, that
canon.
was a dream. The only prince we have in current Equestria is fucking Blue Blood.
Shining Armor.
That's true.
Shining Armor.
Shining Armor is a prince by marriage.
Okay. The only princes we have are Shining Armor and fucking Blue Blood.
Well, it's definitely a matriarchy, but I think that does bring up another question. I mean, perhaps only to me, but there are other sentient races in Equestria. So why can ponies only ascend to be Alicorns?
Because Earth Pony Master Race.
I think we're getting slightly away from topic that could be really well linked back to this episode. This is something like to
yeah,
spin
we're
off.
getting kind of off into the wilderness.
This is
here.
what people listen to podcasts
And
for.
I now have the image of a yak alicorn. Thank you, Illya.
I just don't think alicorns are part of other people's races. You have Griffin Kings, you have yak, alphas, you have Timberwolf alphas, like the big-ass one from that terrible episode that we shall not be named. Like, I just don't think alicorns are a possibility within other races because they're different races. They have their own different lore and their own different types of ascension.
I have to ask one question right here then. I want to know from the group, we have a quorum of 6 or 7 here. Do the ponies rule the world or not?
No.
We've seen no evidence that they rule anything beyond Equestria.
To tie it back to this episode, I am absolutely interested, and something we've vaguely touched on Heroic Review before, in the storms, when the Crystal Heart shatters, the storms that come from the north, that far north, the ponies don't control the weather, which says to me this world is a lot more interesting. And I don't want to go into another hour of us fan cannoning about what the rest of the world is like, but it hints at something beyond the nation of Equestria where, they aren't in control of everything.
They are responsible for the movement of all of the clouds in the entirety of Equestria. There is no weather without the ponies, so speaketh Faust.
Well, Equestria the nation or Equestria the world?
The world's not called Equestria. It's the magical land of Equestria.
We don't have a name for the world, we just have the land. So what exactly about Equestria is so special that the beings living there control the weather, where elsewhere it is completely wild, as we would expect in a realistic setting?
Well, maybe they've got their own system.
They ever freeze in Equestria.
Which is why I postulate wild magic.
Wendigos were capable of annihilating the weather in Equestria, even with Pegasi controlling it back during the Season 1 episode. So I'm pretty sure that all of the weather in the frozen north is not capable of being controlled by pony means.
Well, the 2 princesses did try to control it, and they failed.
Yeah, so all of the weather that's not in Equestria is being controlled by other means. Whether it be a different villain, a different race, the dragons, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that the only weather that ponies control is the weather within their own boundaries.
That was entirely my point.
Yes.
Yes.
The spirits are wild and untamed. Leaves fall off trees under their own power. So, as I'm starting to realize, we haven't actually mentioned what the plot of this episode is. We should probably do a quick overview of the plot. Who wants to take it? Webshoter?
Twilight is taking on a role as mentor to Starlight Glimmer, and so she's making a bunch of lists. And one of the lessons that she comes up with happens to be in the Crystal Empire, where at the same time, she's expecting to find out about her niece or nephew. There's a crystalling happening in the Crystal Empire when the baby's born. Baby is an alicorn. The alicorn causes problems. The Crystal Heart shatters. They gotta fix it before, everything's buried in ice and snow. Starlight meets Sunburst. They're able to help save the day.
I think you hit most of the salient points, given that you summed up the second episode by Sunburst and Starlight Glimmer save the day, because not a lot happened. Everyone had something to do. I noticed everyone had a thing to do, whether it was try and talk to some ponies or to run around and look busy. But
Or boast about coincidentally saving the day and getting a giant crystal statue made of him,
or being Spike, yeah. But every character had a couple of lines and something to do in the plot. Not everyone had something of consequence to do. So it I don't know, it felt a bit ticky-boxy that Haber wanted to give every character something that they did in the opening, because it's the opening of the new season. Without necessarily giving them anything meaningful to do. I mean, the Applejack and Rarity and Fluttershy argue with some ponies, and I think that took them about 5 minutes, and it didn't really go anywhere or do anything.
Yeah, it was kind of season 1-ish with the making sure every single pony is in the episode and does at least 5 lines.
One of the things that I
Yeah.
definitely am starting to see from the first 2 episodes is that I think Season 6 is going to be a lot like Season 1, except instead of Twilight learning the friendship lessons and so on and so forth, it's going to be Starlight Glimmer.
Well, we've had another episode, and Starlight Glimmer wasn't in it, so I don't think we're going to be getting too much Starlight Glimmer learning things.
I'm not certain there's going to be a lot of Starlight Glimmer in the whole season, to be honest with you.
Remember how much Starlight Glimmer there was in the previous season? She only showed up twice, and she was supposed to be the big bad.
Can we draw attention to some of the other new characters introduced? I'm not even getting to the elephant in the room yet, but the crystal ponies are showing a lot more variety in their designs, including one glorious mustache.
The con-going ponies, the badge collector, the lady who sits out there all night.
Yeah, they did actually show some variety in crystal pony models. Previously, when we've seen when they've had the crystal effect on them, they've all shared very similar model types, whereas now we had a bit more variety in design. So again, there was intentionally weren't crystalled up. Why weren't they crystalled up? I don't understand.
Magic.
How do we know how many of them weren't immigrants? I mean...
Well, you can tell a crystal pony by the reflection in their eye is a little crystal rather than a little reflection spot. And all of the crystal ponies that were complaining about not wanting to leave all had the crystal eye reflection. So they were all crystal dwelling ponies.
And talking about the fact that this was the first crystalline in 1,000 years and they really wanted to see it and it was overall crystalline.
And the best crystalling ever, even though they haven't been to any other crystallings.
Probably the reason why they didn't look like crystal ponies like they did when they first showed up is because maybe they spend a lot of time exploring Equestria. I mean, things change. You come back 1,000 years later, go check things out.
Any type of magical power happens to the main six, they usually have like 5 seconds of having like one thing happen to them, their eyes sparkle, or like some big huge aura happens around them, and then they actually get their form. I think that this is a mini retcon happening that time. The crystal ponies didn't transform immediately because they were trying to have it be that sort of scope. They wanted to have it be like a transformation that happens over time.
So the crystal ponies looked like crystal ponies because of all the crystallings they'd been to?
I think more like that they're going to, like Vicodin says, only retcon it so when an event happens and they're all feeling the love of the Crystal Empire or whatever bullshit magic you want to put into that, you know, their community spirit is when they activate their crystal amazing looking shiny powers.
Crystal pony powers, activate.
Because this show is very, not famous, but this show over the seasons has introduced little mini retcons like this, where they're just like, okay, this didn't really make sense when we used it, because back then we used it for a plot device. Now we're going to specify it a little more. It used to be Mod. They retconned Mod in, even though Pinky had supposedly only 2 other sisters. It's the same thing.
So, who wants to talk about Flurry Heart? She sure was a character.
She did stuff. She had a design.
Look, at least she's not called Skylar or whatever everyone was really worried about.
Yeah, Skylar hasn't shown up, and we're all very thankful for that.
Not gonna lie, Skylar wouldn't have been a bad idea. There already is a toy for her. The thing with the baby is that it's a baby. You can't characterize babies. That's the main problem. So this is similar to the Fairly Odd Parents episode, Fairly Odd Baby, which premiered like 3-ish years ago. And the same thing basically happened with that baby. The baby was like within Cosmo for like half of the episode, and then the other half he comes out and starts just wrecking everything in sight. So we had the first half taken out for this episode. Now it's just the baby is a baby. And because it has a shitload of power, like was shown in the Pinkie Pie Caretaker episode, the ridiculous amount of magic that it has makes her just basically fuck shit up. And admittedly, the episode could be written without her. I'd rather have an episode be capable of being written without her than an episode that is completely marred and stilted because it has this element within it.
They could have written this episode to not feature Flurry Heart. Everything that Flurry Heart did could have happened for a different reason.
That was my point. Is that the Crystal Heart could have exploded for no reason, or the weather, like the princesses could have just like not been able to control the weather, and then the weather just descends on the Crystal Empire, and the heart freezes, and boom, it's done. Like, it could have been the same thing.
That would have been a bit of a retread of just Sombra coming back and, you know, some kind of impending doom that they have to fend off. But yeah, I'm interested in how they seem to really plug home the new parents, no one gets any sleep kind of thing. They seem to hammer that point home a lot. And I'm thinking, your target audience, do they really need to understand that being a parent is hard? What do little girls and boys think of that?
Haber has kids. I'm pretty sure that he's just like making it empathetic towards the entire audience. like we said, family show. I think he's just wanting that to be in there because that's what the Fairly Odd Parents episode did too. Like the similarities between this and the Fairly Odd Parents episode are really, really similar. And so that like the empathetic grab towards the parents as well as the kid just being a little shit that destroys everything. Like it's a very similar episode, but I don't feel it's like marred in any way because of it.
Okay, Greg?
I do have to say I find it rather odd that when they are driving home this point that being a parent friggin' sucks. It seems to be only Shining Armor who's really suffering. Cadence looks a little tired, but Shining Armor is practically dead. Falling asleep at the drop of a hat, losing track of everything. I don't know if it might have been a little better if they both looked to be showing a little more evenly the signs of being a parent, because right now it looks like Shining is the kid 24/7.
Illya?
Well, I think it's partially played for comedic value. I mean, he's just sort of the surfer pony kind of goofy type that they would throw in there for that gag. I don't
Surfer
think,
dude to surfer dad.
I don't think there's anything about it that indicates that Cadence was less haggard than he. It's just that he's the funny part of it.
Yeah,
He's just
I
more
agree with that.
exaggerated in his demonstrations of, having to put up with this kid, I guess. That makes sense.
And it's a dad. There's a persistent theme in popular culture that the dad is a kind of an idiot, It's just, they're just playing that.
Yeah, it's definitely playing to type.
And the Sparkles are crazy when they go crazy. They're funny when they go crazy.
Yes, it's a family trait.
Oh yeah, must run in the blood.
Yep. So, babies are difficult. Film at 11.
One last thing about Flurry Heart is that she was voiced by Tabitha St. Germain.
She also has ludicrously oversized wings. That bugs me still.
Tara Strong also voiced Twilight's mom.
I thought so.
Did anyone notice that when Twilight came into the room to see the baby for the first time, she didn't say a thing to Princess Luna or Celestia, and they both sort of bowed their heads to her?
Yeah,
It's
I did
kind of an
notice
odd
that.
moment for me.
The takeover has begun.
They're equals. That's probably
Seriously,
why.
that's going to be that. I'm predicting it. That's the finale. Twilight goes power mad, takes over Equestria. Starlight Glimmer has to take her down.
That they've been playing the long game, if that is anything to do with their plot.
Very quick and goes back to why I think Starlight is back in the series. Is because there's Starlight Glimmer, number 1, Double Diamond, number 2, Party Favor, number 3, Night Glider, number 4, Sugar Bell, number 5, and now Sunburst, number 6.
So you think there's going to be an alternate main 6?
Yes.
I would give you money if that happened. That is not what is going to happen.
That's what I'm calling for the rest of the season.
No, not this season. The only way that this happens is with Guardians of Harmony.
Yes, Guardians of Harmony. I don't think Guardians of Harmony is going to be a project that reunites the characters from the Magical Village. I think it's going to be boy
I'm not
ponies.
convinced.
It's going to be boy ponies doing boy pony things. PDK?
As an entirely casual fan, I have no frame of reference for what you guys just said. But
Okay, there has been a trademark out for Guardians of Harmony, which features a bunch of toys which are slightly more aggressive. There's a big spike.
oh god,
They have
Which is-
actual joints, so you can do poses and stuff with them.
They have weapons.
Chrissy decides to give up the whole changeling infestation and just shank someone.
Yes,
Okay.
They're
so,
more action
terrible.
figures.
yeah, they're more like action figures. So they're more classic. What you would expect to be marketed at a young male audience rather than the young female audience of the ponies with the shitty manes.
Exactly.
Free
Fresh.
advertisement.
Oh, yeah.
Please go buy them now.
Yes, when they are out, they're not out yet. They're just
Pay
being
us,
demoed.
Hasbro.
Part 2 of this 2-part episode is mostly filler until Sunburst realizes that he knows all of the spells that'll save the day. Did anybody feel like part 2 was kind of a wasted opportunity, or were we all happy with the content of the filler?
I kind of feel like if they tried to put everything into one, it would have felt a little rushed. I think they needed to stretch it out, but didn't have quite enough main plot for 2 episodes.
I think you could have structured it into one episode. You would have just had to rewrite a few things. Because there was a thing with the Crystal Empire from season 3, too, was that episode, or that 2 episodes, had like 8 to 10 minutes, which is a lot. That's half of an episode of just filler. Whether it was like her trying to get to Sombra, or just the little in-between parts between the Crystal Festival, there was just a lot of parts where you could like trim out 15 to 20 seconds, and then you add them all up after a while, and you realize that it becomes like 5 to 6 minutes. And the same thing goes with this episode. You could have easily written it into one episode. You would have just had to either taken out the baby, which wasn't going to happen, or don't have the princesses Celestia or Luna in it, because they kind of took the spotlight for like 3 to 4 minutes, I think.
And contributed next to nothing.
We got to see Celestia do something though, which I think is one of the few times we've ever seen her do something and not end up bad. Because the only time we've seen her do magic was against Chrysalis, and she got knocked unconscious.
Yeah, we need more proactive Celestia.
So she got to use magic to dispel weather clouds. So we got to see her do something meaningful, which was interesting.
It was also nice to see her working alongside her sister like that, even if it was in dire straits.
That indeed is one of the best parts of this episode to me, is being able to see both Celestia and Luna being able to do something to contribute, not just off screen.
Yeah, they're too often they don't get to do anything, because what do you do with God? She's got all this amazing power. What do you do with that character? Celestia is not an interesting or complex character. She is a cipher, and using her is somewhat difficult. Greg?
Of course, what they do really didn't accomplish much.
No. But we got to see them looking like they were doing something, and that's just as good as actually doing something.
They tried. Give them a medal for their participation.
They did buy him time, though. I mean, they held back the clouds as long as they could to be able to find a spell to fix everything.
Vicodin?
Well, the main problem is that no one is really happy with all of these characters unless they really get their own episode. And this has happened since like season 1. All the way that these episodes are written, when you have an ensemble cast, when you have all of them, it really helps the scriptwriter when you're just capable of having, like we said, Fluttershy, Rarity, or whoever, them just add in their 2 to 3 lines, because you can either have a joke in there. Like it pads out the time while also having it capable of being endearing, like you can get into the episode a little more. But when you have like a Fluttershy fan or a Spike fan or like a Princess Celestia fan, they're not really happy with scenes where they only get, not that much to work with. So it's like a kind of half between you can't please everyone, but also just like, I mean, the whole cast is there. They're not just going to sit there and do nothing too, because we criticize the episodes when that happens as well, with episodes such as Daring Don't.
I'm sorry. I was just going to ask you if you think there'll ever be a Celestia episode, because there's been an episode for just about every other character we have.
If not this season, then next season. The thing is that Hasbro is giving these writers the most leeway that I've ever seen. Like, they were really, really, really hands-on for seasons 1 and 2. That's why Foss left. But with the finale that we had last season, that was the most tonal shift, existential thing that I've ever seen. Like, if that's not going to scare the kids away, I really don't know what is going to make them, or make Hasbro be like, I don't know. I mean, the problem is that the comics have already done a really good job with Celestia, so the hardcore fans are really not going to like what the episode is going to be unless they pull a really good idea out of the hat.
If they do something, and I know the comics have done some of it, but yeah, if they do like a flashback episode and you have a younger Celestia telling us a story from her youth kind of thing, then yeah, the fans might be happy with that, because you can go a bit more into, well, she was young and she was learning something about being pretty much the ruler of Equestria, but as she is now, she's the omnipotent god who sends everyone else off to do problem solving, so she's boring, basically.
It'll have to be something that happened 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, all of her characterization happened 1,000 years ago. She made a terrible mistake that made her sister and the person that used to be next to her all of the time be imprisoned on the moon for 1,000 years. So now she's a little cautious. I mean, she's a little cautious, and she's very terrified of messing up again, even though she has a lot previously, like Chrysalis episode, but we're going to forget that.
So we should be wrapping this up now. So does anyone have anything they want to add?
Starlight and Sunburst. The shipping is strong with this too.
Yeah, they're going to bang.
Please, let's not have a shipping conversation.
I just love the idea of a magic user who doesn't actually have the ability to cast the spells, but has practically encyclopedic knowledge of them. That whole theoretical versus practical knowledge thing.
When
So,
you look
good
at the
character.
flashback, that's actually what he was doing a lot of the time. Was they would Starlight Glimmer
Starlight Glimmer.
was dramatically outpacing him in terms of magical things, and he was just showing us stuff in books, and then she'd do something amazingly magical. So even in the background, they were.
She never actually said he did a lot of good magic, but that he knew everything about magic. So it's really nice continuity.
They're a team. If anything, she's the muscle and he's the brain.
He's an interesting juxtaposition between the very bookish and able to do everything Twilight.
They took Twilight and divided it in half. You get Starlight, who can perform the magic, and Sunburst, who knows everything.
Sunburst is just one of those magical characters, in my opinion. He's beautifully drawn, wonderfully acted, and was given a good script. So I was just really pleased with everything about him.
Yeah, he was for a background male character, he had a lot to do compared to every other background male character we see in this show. Okay, I'm going to call an end to the review unless anyone has any final thoughts.
I do. Unfortunately, you can toss it out in the edit if you want. But I just wanted to bring up the point that I think that it was necessary to shatter the haunt. The crystalling, yes, is something that had been going on for thousands of years or whatever, but they'd never done it with an Alicorn baby. And I think they probably had to shatter the heart by the only thing capable of shattering it, and then have it brought back together and sort of reformed in the image of the new Alicorn. That's my feeling.
It's nice that they've brought in an unknown element. It's saying, right, you thought we were done with the universe, but we can't just keep teaching friendship lessons. Even in this new generation of now Twilight teaching friendship lessons, it's showing you that if even Celestia doesn't know about a newborn, totally natural Alicorn, then there are still things to, surprise everyone.
Still new mysteries to uncover.
That's beautifully put.
Yeah, the show can't handle entropy, and that's what it would have been if it continued with seasons 1 and 2 narrative. That's why they've been changing it up every season.
Yeah, we've come a long way since seasons 1 and 2.
They don't want to be Family Guy. Family Guy is garbage now.
No, I never thought we would get from My Little Pony to Family Guy, so thanks for that, Neep. Okay, and that's our show. Thank you for listening. This was the Heroic Review. I was the moderator, Deadlyreg, and joining me was ABagofVicodin.
Peace, guys. You all have an excellent day.
Greg.
Long days and pleasant nights, listeners.
Gray.
I'll see y'all later.
Illya.
Have an equestrian life.
PDK.
And Young.
And Webshoter.
See you in the future, everyone.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.